Good evening. Welcome to the Everett Public Schools regular board meeting. Today is November 9th, 2021, and I'd like to go ahead and read our closed captioning disclaimer. Closed captioning is being provided by Zoom solely for the convenience of our viewers. Zoom closed captioning may not always transcribe accurately due to the limitations of the machine-generated service. Everett Public Schools does not review for accuracy and makes no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy, reliability, timeliness, or completeness of any information that appears in a closed caption. I'd like to start by asking Director Berg to read our land acknowledgement.
We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish, Snohomish, and Tulalip peoples. We express our deepest respect and gratitude to the ancestors of this land on whose shoulders we stand. In the Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community.
Thank you. And would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May the Secretary please call the roll.
President Mason.
Present.
Vice President Lassane.
Present.
Director Nichols.
Present.
Director Mitchell.
Present.
Director Berg.
Present.
Student Representative Pilch-Basson. Present. Student Representative Colley.
Present.
Nice that we're all here and together.
We're here.
First item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Salzman, may you please provide an overview of tonight's agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to our public. Tonight's agenda contains the following: the Superintendent's report, a segment for board comments, a segment for public comments, a segment for routine business, a segment for strategic progress monitoring, a segment for information and discussion, a segment for unfinished business, a segment for new business, and upcoming agenda items. Since publishing the agenda, the following change was made to the agenda. Item 10.02, approval of the personnel report. The report was updated. Item 14.01, adoption of middle school science, chemistry, and the earth system instructional materials, first reading. The presentation was updated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 All those opposed, say no. The agenda is adopted, which takes us to recognition. And tonight we have 4 of our most outstanding students with us virtually. And I believe Dr. Boaton is going to give us some introductions. We look forward to this.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, President Mason, Board of Directors, Dr. Salzman. We are very excited tonight to recognize our students who are our National Merit Scholar semi-finalists. And here this evening via Zoom are their high school administrators to help introduce them. I'd like Jackson High School Principal Lance Balla. Can you please go first in introducing and recognizing these honorees? Okay, perfect. Actually, we'll go ahead and we'll have Eric Jennings, who is the assistant principal at Everett High. Eric, are you with us tonight?
I saw him.
Perfect. Eric, if you would like to introduce your honorees at this time.
Yes, I would love to. I can't turn off my video, but we'll give it a go. I want to acknowledge Audrey Weir, who has did nothing but represent herself and her school with all of her hard work and determination. She is an active contributor to many of our activities, and she has worked so diligently and so hard to just further her learning and her education. And it is an honor to present her to you, and that she's getting recognized for all of her hard work.
I think we can do a congratulations for Audrey. And Audrey, would you like to say a few short words?
Sure. Hi. Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. And thank you, Mr. Jennings, for saying such kind things. I'm just so excited to have this opportunity. And it's just wonderful, and I'm so grateful. I am currently at a rehearsal for the show I'm currently in. So if there's any echoing or you hear music in the background, that's why. But I knew I had to be here just to thank you all for being so wonderful. So yeah, thank you so much for honoring me.
Awesome. Thank you, Audrey. Congratulations.
Audrey, is she still there? Can she hear me?
Yes.
Tell us what show you're in.
I'm in All Together Now. It's a musical review. It has a lot of different wonderful songs. There's songs from Hairspray, songs from Rent, songs from Little Shop of Horrors. It's like this whole cabaret almost. I'm singing Astonishing from Little Women, so I actually have a solo song. It's really awesome though. It's going to be incredible. There's dancing, singing, wonderful. It's 12th, 13th, 14th for a little promo if you guys want to come by.
Excellent. We will look forward to that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. There's nothing wrong with a little promotion of our student productions at all in this format. So thank you so much. It's my understanding that Principal Lance Balla, the principal at Jackson High School, is just logging on to introduce his semi-finalist for the National Merit Scholar. And perhaps he's not in here yet. Yeah, I can stretch it out a little bit. We're really excited because the National Merit Scholars, we had 4 of them this year. We had 4 absolutely outstanding Everett Public Schools seniors who have been named as the Merit Scholarship semi-finalists. Ryan Cho, Alan Fu, Kieran Hubbard, all from Jackson High School, and I know that Principal Balla will be here to introduce them briefly. And then, of course, Audrey Weir, who was at Everett High. The semifinalists and National Merit Scholars represent less than 1% of the United States high school seniors who achieved the highest scores on the 2020 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, or the PSAT, as we lovingly call it here. To become a finalist, the semifinalist students will actually, and a high school official must submit a detailed scholarship application that includes information about the semifinalist's academic record, the participation in school and community activities, and demonstrated leadership abilities, as well as employment, honors, and awards received. So these are not just students who perform very well on an assessment. They actually are very well-rounded students that are being recognized for their achievements. And I believe that Principal Balla has just logged on. Principal Balla, I would love for you to be able to introduce and say a few words about your 3 semifinalists.
So, excuse me, pardon me. So excited to congratulate the students from Jackson who have done the incredible feat of distinguishing themselves on this National Merit Scholar journey. It's so exciting. It's truly rarefied air. And definitely want to, I'm seeing Alan Fu in my screen, hello Alan, well done, young man, very impressive. Did you study extra hard for this one, Alan, or did you just eat a bowl of Wheaties and do what you always do?
I practiced a lot of questions on Khan Academy.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Alan. And I'm not seeing I'm sorry, Shelley, my screen is acting funny on me. I see Alan clearly and you, but I'm not, and I see Eric Jennings. Is there another student on the panel right now?
Well, I think what we can do is check and see if there's another student on the panel, but I think maybe at this time, could we please give Alan a huge round of applause for his accomplishments? And Alan, it sounds like you did a lot of studying on Khan Academy, but are there other comments that you'd like to share with the Board of Directors this evening?
Not particularly. I just wanted to praise Hawthorne in front of all of you guys. He is my god.
Awesome, short and sweet, Ellen. Congratulations again on such a fabulous accomplishment. I think that's all of the students that we have represented. It doesn't sound like Ryan or Kieran are here this evening. However, I don't want that to actually indicate they have been an amazing, amazing presence. They've done amazing things. And if we could just give them a round of applause, I think that would be well deserved. Excellent. Well, congratulations again. Thank you to both administrators for being here and sharing your wonderful students with us. And we're looking forward to hearing your accomplishments in the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Boughton, for helping coordinate and introduce that. It gets a little tricky with the Zoom calls, but appreciate your involvement. Okay. The exciting part of the meeting behind us, we'll move on. Love honoring those students. Next item in business is the superintendent's report. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Salzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to our public. First of all, I'd like to publicly tonight announce that we have a vaccine clinic on Thursday at Evergreen Middle School for our students that are 5 to 11 years old. And I want to publicly thank the superintendents of Edmonds and the Mukilteo School District with the Seattle visiting nurses who worked with me all weekend to make sure that we can get this done, and to Kathy Reeves and to Nurse Johnson and everybody that helped get this to happen, because it was a heavy lift. And I'm just proud to announce that for our community, we'll have the first round on Thursday. And then we're going to have another round at Meadowdale High School on Sunday, partnering with our other district. And we put that out last night. But that will include the follow-up of the second dose. Clinics filled within 52 minutes. It filled up very quickly. And I can promise you that we'll be advocating for more vaccines in our community, working with our health district, so that we can get our students vaccinated. That is the priority of this administration, and we will continue advocating for that. As you know, we have a substitute shortage in our district and many districts across Western Washington. I want to take this time to thank all staff and the cabinet that is here tonight that have subbed on Mondays and Fridays. It shows the care that you have for students, and I would like, again, the cabinet to be honored with a round of applause, because doing that means a lot to me and the team. I would also like to say that I met with the ASB leaders of all of our high schools, and talking to the students made me feel very good, because they're glad to be back. And they gave me a great deal of ideas, and we shared those ideas together. But to our community, I will tell you that our students are glad to be back in schools. And I want to thank our teachers that have returned back to work with great energy and excitement. And then finally, something that really resonated with me, we had a wonderful instructional reviews, as you know, during this process. But at Cascade High School, during instructional review, the leader, Michael Takayoshi, said it best. We're in a re-entry mode. And it's like you're getting your cast off your arm and trying to throw a pitch. It's atrophy. It's not that same arm you had before the cast. That re-entry is like atrophy. It's new. It's something different. It takes time to build up to and build up to. And we have to remember that as we re-enter and take care of our youngsters with social emotional well-being, and also making sure we have academia going on, it is a balancing act. So I want to thank the board for their work that's helped support us, and to our principals and assistant principals and everybody that helped us re-enter in an exceptional way. And finally, I'd like to thank the two board directors, Ms. Mitchell and Ms. Mason, on their election results last week, and thank them for their great work. And we continue working hard for students. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the thanks. Appreciate it. We appreciate it. Okay, it's time for board and student representative comments. Let's see, do we want to start all the way down at the end of the dais there with Binta? Do you have anything to share this evening?
Yeah, I just first wanted to thank the board for a 3-day weekend. I mean, a 3-day break for, for Thanksgiving. It's great to have some extra time to be with our family and just get a couple extra days off. And I'd also like to thank the board and, sorry, I wrote this down, the board and the Seattle nurses for the vaccine clinics that have been opening up. It's great to see us helping more people get vaccinated, as everyone should try and get vaccinated if they can. And yeah, with re-entering schools, it's been great, but it's also been very stressful on kids. I feel like, just as he was saying, trying to throw a pitch when you just get the cast off, it's also been a very stressful time, but it's just been great to be back overall. But it's also been like a lot on kids' mental health, and I feel like that just needs to be recognized a little more, just because it's been really hard on a lot of students. But it has been great to be back, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to echo a lot of what Binta said, especially in my family. My younger stepbrother is 10 years old, so we've been holding out until the day they approved the vaccine for younger kids for a long time. So it's really exciting for our family and for, I'm sure, a lot of other families. So I'm just really happy that we finally have the opportunity to keep our younger kids safer. And so thank you again to the board one more time for providing those opportunities, since it can be hard in a lot of different communities to find those opportunities for vaccines. So I just want to thank our community for making that such an easy and accessible thing. And yeah, I liked Dr. Saltzman's words about reminding everyone that we're still in the re-entry phase. I feel like it's been a couple months now, and so it can be easy to kind of fall into the lull of like, okay, we're back and this is just how things are right now. But it definitely still feels like a transition every single day, and there's still so much effort that goes into it on the students' behalf and on our district staff's behalf to continue with this process. And so I really liked the reminder that we're all having this meeting, that's an ongoing thing.
And I've got a couple of things, actually. So first, I'll start with the instructional reviews. I was able to attend 2 of them in the last few weeks. One at Sequoia, which was amazing. The students at Sequoia are amazing. The staff is amazing. I looked at this little note on my desk. It's a squirrel with a nut, and I just love that that's their mascot, because I will tell you, everybody there is like a squirrel with a nut, just tenacious and amazing. So it was great to see that school. The second one I went to was Jackson High School. It's, of course, the school that my kiddo goes to, but amazing teachers, staff, and just to reiterate what Dr. Saltzman said about substitutes, we actually had a substitute in one of our IR classes, and understanding how much that substitute was also a teacher at Jackson, giving up their planning time, the work doesn't go away. And so I just can't thank those substitutes enough, the cabinet enough, because I know for every hour that you're spending subbing in a classroom, you're still coming back to a lot of work. So that was amazing. Also, shameless plug for Jackson, Trap is playing. They are doing a straight play right now, November 12th, 13th, 19th, and 20th. I do want to congratulate Ryan, Alan, Audrey, and Kieran. I know a couple of them couldn't be here, but that is just an amazing, amazing feat to be able to be a National Merit Scholar. I mean, it's just, think about all the work that goes into getting through high school and then times it by 10 to make that, and it's just a small percentage of folks in the country that make it there. The other thing I wanted to mention was the vaccine clinics. And I think it's amazing that our district's doing it, but I really have to say thank you, Dr. Saltzman, because it was really his work and really reaching out and making it happen. It wasn't just something that the state came in and said, here, go forth and do. Our district head had to really work hard and collaborate and think outside the box and get folks on board to make those clinics happen. And talking with parents last night as they were refreshing their screen, they cannot thank you enough, because they were just like hitting refresh, and then somebody went, I got a Sunday. I was like, yes. So I just think everybody's excited, but a lot of folks don't know how much work went into it. The last thing I'll just end my comments with is just, I rarely talk about personal stuff up here, but I just want to tell folks, my daughter, who will be the 5th of my children to go to college, got into her first university. It was a big deal for our family because, well, we knew she's going to go somewhere, but to see her actually able to go somewhere. I'm saying this because she got into a university that's a public university to our state. It is considered the 4th highest in the best public schools in the West by U.S. reports. It's considered the top in the Pacific Northwest. by another ranking, it's Western Washington University. I'm saying that because this is a kid who got a 3.9 and has taken no AP classes. And she's going to be able to go to a world-class university. And the amount of stress and heartache and pain that she's avoided by taking classes that are potentially too rigorous, too much, during a public health crisis, no less. But I just want parents to know out there, even if your child has taken 0 AP classes, our schools are amazing. Our teachers are amazing. Our principals are amazing. Your child can go to college if they want, if that's their beyond plan. Don't allow something that is put up as a potential, you must complete X to go to college. That's not the case. So I'm saying that because I know a lot of parents are told that freshman year. And our family is an example that you don't have to go through AP to get into a very, very good school. Hopefully that'll be the first of many, but I just wanted to share that little bit of good Berg household news with you.
I appreciate that. So I'll start with my personal then. I will not be live at the next December meeting because I will actually be on college tours with my nephew who went a different route to get to college. He joined the military because when he graduated from high school, he did not know where he wanted to go. So the Army was what took him. He got out of the Army. He went to community college. He'll be graduating with his associate degree next month. One thing he learned is that if you have that associate degree, it's a lot easier to get into university because they don't look back at high school. Unfortunately, he lost his mom during this time. And so I am going as his mom to look at colleges with him. And because he did take a different track, and it is that he'll be 23 when he enters, and there is nothing wrong with that. He will have his associate's degree. He served in our military. And all of our kids go in a different direction. He did not go to our schools though, so it's different. I went to my very first saucer. Instructional review at Jackson High School. It is the first time I have been in a school when students are present, which was really kind of exciting. And I just want to, in 7 years, it just never occurred to me before how our new administrators, how much they have to learn. That there's a new vice principal at Jackson who was addressing students by name or by sport, and knew every teacher and knew her way around the school. And it's been, 3 months? So I was that is drinking through a fire hose, and just really, really impressed. Not only does she have to do all the projects and everything, but that was just really, and it had never occurred to me how much our new principals and new administrators have to learn everything about the school. And then lastly, I was being very careful during the election to not speak about election stuff. But during the primary and general election, I probably received, give or take, plus or minus 20 emails or phone calls. People that would say, I have 2 questions for you. The 2 questions were always the same. Where did I stand on critical race theory and sex education? Most people were very, very gracious. And I really do want to thank all those people who called to clarify what we were doing here in Everett, that I could say we do not teach critical race theory. There is no high school curriculum called critical race theory. I did look on Indeed, because one thing we do here is teach kids to think critically. And when you look up critical thinking on Indeed.com, so this is for job searches, so this is what we want our kids to be able to do. This is from their website. Critical thinking is the act of analyzing facts to understand a problem or topic thoroughly. The critical thinking process typically includes steps such as collecting information and data, asking thoughtful questions, and analyzing possible solutions. I can tell you during my IR, in all 4 of the classes I went to, I saw this. There was critical thinking in choir as well as in physics. And so this is where we want our kids to go. This is something we're definitely focused on in our district, is that our kids can think critically about history, about science, about everything. And so I just really want to thank the community for trying to clarify those questions. And thank you so much.
Well, this morning got to go to Hawthorne Elementary for an instructional review with the team, and that was it was great. It was great to see. I really want to thank Principal Ellsworth for giving us you know, the lowdown on what's going on. You know, we have different work to do at all our schools. Hawthorne needed more work than a lot of them, and they're doing the work, and the kids are doing the work, and it was evident in every classroom that we went to that they were happy to be there, and they were working with their teachers to get the most out of their day that they could. So that was great to see. A lot of really great things happening there. And I do want to echo my extreme gratitude to Dr. Saltzman for getting that vaccine clinic going. That is a heavy lift, and we appreciate you, and we want to thank your family as well for giving you up over the weekend so that you could do those things, because they serve right along with you. And then the other thing we did was the WASDA General Assembly about a week and a half ago. There was a lot of good work was done, a lot of long days talking about priorities and things like that. So it was great. We got our recommendations in for legislative priorities, and we'll be discussing that as a board in the next upcoming meetings. So that'll be great.
Well, I also had the opportunity of attending Woodside and Cascade IR, and I can truly say I saw critical thinking going on in the classrooms that I visited. It was very, very interesting. And I did learn in one particular classroom that you can teach so much with a bar of soap, ivory soap. And I think the students in there truly understood the difference between tensile strength, compression, and one learned about torsional strength, torsion. So that was pretty cool. A bar of soap, that's really great. And I always appreciate having the opportunity to go into the classroom. I do want to also thank all of our National Merit semi-finalists for being able to be a part of the district here and go and then show what they've done and then go on to bigger things. The two that came in today, Audrey and Alan, congratulations to you, and I wish you the best in whatever you tackle. I know you can tackle a lot. I also would like to thank Dr. Saltzman for getting the vaccine clinics. I think there's going to be a lot of people at Evergreen Middle School on Thursday. And it shows that our community is definitely interested in getting their kids inoculated so they can keep their kids in school. So I look forward to seeing the results of that. And I'm sure we'll probably have more kids that won't have the opportunity to take advantage of that day, but hopefully in the near future, we'll have another clinic so they can take advantage during that time. Because it is true that sometimes parents don't have the opportunity to get their kids into clinics during the daytime. And so having it available at school is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I had the opportunity to attend the special ed PTSA on Monday. And I was very, very happy with that. I would like to plug one thing for the PTA. They are having a virtual 5K fundraiser on the 6th of December to the 12th of December, and it will support all PTAs. And you can go online and you could do this 5K fundraiser, a fun run or walk, and support the PTSA. This has been a challenging year for our PTAs, and this is one opportunity that they can help by putting money back into the classroom teachers' hands to support them. And I would encourage everyone to take advantage of the opportunity. You don't have to be a runner. You can walk your dog, and then still enjoy the opportunity of raising funds for PTA. I happened to attend today a State of the Schools briefing through Economic Alliance, and I found out some new statistics that the district has presented during this breakfast chat. We are now a majority district with 50.8% minority students. Amazing. we gave away close to 2 million free meals during 2020-2021 school year during the pandemic when school was virtually. We Zoomed close to 500,000 classes and meetings during that same time period. There were over 400,000 virtual classrooms assignment during that time period when students could not meet in the classroom. We did a lot of things for our community and for our students to ensure that learning continued. I can't say we did not have any problems, we did, but we continued learning in a new way. And we learned how we can continue to deliver education to our students. I am so grateful that they are back in the classroom so that they can continue to learn in class and not outside of class. So I thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for that reminder of the PTSA. I'm guessing they would probably even take a donation without the run if you didn't want to.
Well, yeah, you can always donate without having to run.
That's what I'm thinking right now.
Or walk or bicycle.
And I also wanted to echo the many thanks to Dr. Salzman. I do know personally how hard you have worked to make those vaccine clinics happen. And not just the vaccine clinics, although that's instrumental at this point in time, but also to the entire staff all of you have kept safety at the forefront through these entire 21 months, however long it's been now. It's always been the top priority, whether in the classroom or the next wave of folks who can get vaccinated. And I just so deeply appreciate that. I attended the Madison IR, and I've been going to Madison for maybe 8 years now. And hands down, probably the best school review that I've seen, instructional review, one of the best. There's just so much happening at that school, and it's just so exciting to see. Just really a school that is on the cusp of just taking off. And then lastly, I also just want to say thank you to the support of our voters and the people in our district for allowing me to continue this job, because I really love what I do. Thank you. Okay, do we have any public comments this evening? Okay, with no public comments, we will go ahead and move to item 10.0 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda, and I would ask Dr. Salzman to provide us an overview.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes it includes items that occur less frequently but are of a routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or to consider discussion about the policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In this case of the consent agenda, the superintendent's office received no questions regarding items on the consent agenda. The consent agenda is presented as published for board approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Would any director like to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Hearing no requests, we will go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The consent agenda is approved. We'll now move on to item 11.0, which is strategic progress monitoring, and we do not have a strategic progress monitoring item this evening, so we will go ahead and move to information and discussion. And tonight, item 12.01 is academic and well-being plan update. And I see Dr. Peter Scott up there to introduce the item.
Thank you. Share my screen.
Well, good evening, President Mason, Board of Directors, and Dr. Salzman, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you tonight an update on our academic and well-being plan to support our students as originally presented to you last May. Tonight's update will contain a review of the plan requirements from OSPI, which were met in their approval of our plan on June 1, how we've coordinated diagnostic data and analysis to guide our instruction and support strategy. We'll spotlight several social emotional learning and academic support investments, and also discuss how we're monitoring progress and making adjustments along the way. You may recall that House Bill 1368 required districts to submit an academic and student well-being recovery plan to OSPI by June 1 to address student needs resulting from school building closures and extended time in remote learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic. OSPI reviewed and approved our plan, which was required before ESSER 3 funds were released. In summary, our plan met criteria in the following areas: identification of diagnostic assessments and universal academic and social emotional supports, a plan for the ongoing analysis of disproportionate impact, also referred to in our plan as the equity analysis, and to ensure accessibility in the public posting of that plan. So tonight you'll hear a summary of work in these areas from our team, starting with Dr. Matthews.
Thank you. The primary component of this plan is the administration of diagnostic assessments in English language arts and mathematics in kindergarten through grade 12. Diagnostic assessments are by their nature formative assessments intended to help educators identify student-specific knowledge, skills, and understanding in order to build on each student's strengths and specific learning needs. And that is the focus. Identifying students' specific knowledge, skills, and understanding in order to build on each student's strength and specific learning needs. In kindergarten, students were given the Washington Kindergarten Inventory of Developing Skills, commonly known as the WAKIDS. This assesses students' skills in mathematics, literacy, physical, social, emotional, language, and cognitive domains as they enter kindergarten. In grades 1 through 5, students were given the iReady Diagnostic in reading and math, and in grades 6 through 12, students were given the Performance Matters Comprehensive Assessments in English Language Arts and Mathematics for the prior grade level standards. As the focus is understanding students' current level of knowledge and skills, we're making significant shifts in assessment analysis from how we would normally look at a state-required common assessment. Rather than look at the entire assessment at one time, teachers and principals identify the standards of their next unit to focus their analysis. By doing this, teachers and principals can integrate the interventions aligned to the student's specific performance, and this minimizes the interventions and makes it more coherent for students. So in this example, you're seeing the Performance Matters student item analysis, which teachers and principals access to analyze their diagnostic results. Teachers are asked to identify the standards of the unit they are about to teach, and then identify the key standards of the prior grade level, which would be essential in making it possible for students to access the new learning. Then teachers will focus on only those questions associated with the foundational standards for analysis. By analyzing student responses and common errors, teachers can make informed decisions about how to proceed with instruction. And often interventions are minimized by inserting reminders and reteaching in the context of the new standard. With each new unit then, teachers would return to the diagnostic to understand student learning and preparation for this new unit of instruction.
As part of the well-being portion of this update, I'd like to share with you some information about the structures and investments that we have put in place to support the strategic plan, namely the priority student outcome to strengthen student wellness, engagement, and safety, strategic theme A, for a supportive culture where each student is engaged, thrives, and values learning, and specifically Strategic Plan Initiative A1A, which is to develop shared practices using social and emotional learning, restorative practices, and culturally responsive tenets. To share with you some Tier 1 progress of the milestones to date, reminding what Tier 1 are supports, universal supports that all students receive. The second step is our social and emotional learning framework curriculum at the elementary and middle school level. And one change with this year is that in the past, our counselors have taught the second step curriculum to our students. And this year, all of our teachers are teaching the curriculum. And that provides two significant benefits. One is that students receive the social and emotional learning more frequently and consistently, and also it helps to ingrain the nature of the social emotional learning concepts in the culture of the entire school. And our counselors and our multi-tiered systems of support facilitators helped to train the staff this year. And so we're seeing a lot of success with that as students have returned to school. At the secondary level, Ruler is our social and emotional framework that is established on the CASEL standards for social and emotional learning and is founded by the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Ruler is an acronym that stands for recognition, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating emotions. And it's our entire admin leadership teams were trained in during the August Summer Leadership Institute, and then they used that, brought that back to their administrative summer team meetings and their leadership team meetings to develop trainings during the Learning Improvement Days in August, various staff meetings, Learning Improvement Fridays, and there's also a 4-hour staff coursework that's asynchronous, and that's ESSER funded. And the goal for this year is for the staff to really learn the specific tenets of Ruler and to roll that out to the students next year, again, as part of an ingrained culture of the school embedded in everything that they do. We were very fortunate to have a cohort, to be a cohort in the University of Washington Forefront in the Schools. And it's a suicide prevention framework through the University of Washington. This past October, we had the first Fall Academy. And so for our high schools, our core teams of administrators, counselors, psychologists, and teachers, parents as well, participated in this Fall Academy, which was had portions of 3 days worth of training. And that's been helpful now for our next steps at really focusing on developing our crisis plans that include the infrastructure, suicide prevention, intervention, reentry, and postvention planning. For our Tier 2 and our Tier 3 supports, a reminder of Tier 2. So Tier 1 are our universal supports. Tier 2 is when students need a little bit more support than that. And Tier 3 are pretty intensive supports. And our MTSS team has grown. Now MTS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. It's grown and now includes 3 social workers. And again, we want to thank Dr. Saltzman and the board for helping provide that support last spring to get that in place. And so we are continuing to actively increase our processes and implement our processes and refine them at our schools as we've come back, not anticipating what school would be like back in person, but then having to obviously make a lot of adjustments along the way to be as supportive as possible. And we've also developed a crosswalk of the roles. We have a lot of support personnel, and some of their areas overlap, but we wanted to also provide some distinction between their areas of responsibility, and that includes our MTSS facilitators, our social workers, right, our school counselors, student support advocates, and other support folks. And another important piece for us, is particularly in that initiative A1A, is restorative practices. And so our goal for this year is to have a trainer at every one of our schools using a train the trainer model. And so far we've been making significant continual progress, starting in August with some very formal trainings and some other trainings at schools even as recently as last week. So we're very excited for that as well. And then as you may be aware, our fall Panorama student survey was administered at all of our schools through October 22nd. And we made an intentional decision to keep that window open through October 29th afterwards to capture the responses from all of our students who may have been quarantined due to COVID, just to collect as much information as we possibly could. And that data is now available to our schools, and the district results are now finally coming together for us, and they're available soon now for our analysis and disaggregation. And so we are eagerly awaiting and anticipating the results of these, just due to the impact of the pandemic and that focus on the first 5 days. Again, kudos and thanks to Dr. Saltzman for his vision with that. In the 5 areas of focus of relationships, routine, student agency, high expectations, and community. And then we will then use this information to continue to inform our tiered supports for students as we progress forward.
So when we think about our academic extended learning opportunities, we really focused early on the fact that some of our youngest students have actually never experienced in-person school as of yet. And so one of the things I'd like to spotlight for you this evening is the Springboard Collaborative work that we're doing. There are over 312 kindergarten through third grade students who we are targeting at 6 schools at Emerson Garfield, Hawthorne, Madison, Lowell, and Jackson Elementary schools. And it's an intensive 7-week literacy program for students in kindergarten through third grade. The program provides engagement opportunities for families to also support their children's reading as home, as well as job-embedded professional development and coaching for school-based leaders and teachers. The implementation of the program includes 3 hours of weekly instruction after school, team building huddles between teachers and families to set reading goals and expectations, and 5 family workshops. And this is a piece where we're really talking about collaborating and developing partnerships with our families to help increase student literacy, which literacy by third grade is one of our strategic priority outcomes. There are opportunities for capstone celebrations. And while we know that Tier 1 instruction is really the first and best approach, we know that these early literacy students really needed some additional support. So we really focused in on bringing the Springboard Collaborative program to those schools because it does provide the curriculum tools and the resources that are aligned with the science of reading to help our early literacy students achieve. So when we think about how are we monitoring and adjusting our plans, we can make a plan and we can run a plan, but if we don't actually actively seek out feedback and adjust, we might miss some things. So one of the things that we do to monitor and adjust our plans is by collecting and responding to feedback. We use the instructional review process that many of you have participated in as to get a window on the instruction that's taking place in our schools and collaboratively engage in discourse with school teams as they share with us what they see as their biggest support needs. As we've completed over 20 instructional reviews so far, some common themes that we're starting to see schools develop as their focus areas really have emerged around the science of reading. So understanding how students build and put together reading, specifically on phonological awareness, decoding and encoding. We've seen a lot of support needed around Math Tier 1 instruction. As you know, especially at the elementary level, this is the first year of our mathematics adoption. And so really helping to think about how we're shifting from kind of more of a direct instruction or what we call a gradual release model to a launch work synthesize with a focus of engaging our students in really meaningful math dialogue. Use of formative and summative assessments to inform instruction has been an area for almost all of our schools have said we want to get better and smarter about utilizing that data to help improve the instructional practice. And what we've done is then mobilize support to address each of these needs. Some of the themes that we've taken from our instructional review feedback has helped us to better develop professional learning opportunities for people. And we also take a look at what we can do to actually push into schools, directors and facilitators helping to work side by side with building principals and teachers to improve instruction. And when we think about feedback, we can't forget about our opportunities to solicit feedback from our community and families through our Let's Connect process. We have had 2 Let's Connect listening sessions, and I think one of the more important pieces to really remember is that the Let's Connect sessions are not just a, we're gonna come and share one thing with you, or we're gonna share the information that the school district is providing, but it's also a listening and action development session. So we listen to our community, and then we take that feedback that we're provided and we develop specific actions to help support our students as they engage in their journey for achievement and success. So our first Let's Connect this fall was on September 20th, and we really solicited feedback from what could we do better to support your student. We listened, we gathered that feedback, we shared with them, again, what we're currently doing, and then based on their feedback, what actions we need to take. So for example, communicating proactively with families about available supports was really important for families, and so we made sure that we could clearly articulate what supports are available for, let's say, students who are quarantined. On the October 18th listening session for Let's Connect, it was really focused on how can schools help to increase a sense of belonging. One of the big pieces that we shared with our community was on October 15th, every employee in this district made a 6-hour commitment to professional learning around equitable services and outcomes for our students. That was a huge piece that we wanted to ensure that our community knew. We are here not just for the normative, we're here for each and every student, and we made a district-wide commitment that was a pretty powerful move. But then what we listened and we gathered information, and then we developed action plans specifically around our school improvement plans around family engagement and how can we be better partners with our families and engaging in two-way relationships and helping to serve our families in a better way.
We look forward, this team and others look forward to presenting to the board an update in April. And we would use the same template that we're using tonight and also add a layer of the diagnostic assessment results and the results of some of these strategies in action. So with that, we will welcome your questions or comments this evening.
Thank you. Great information. This is really helpful to see. You start out with a big plan and it's sort of like, how does the plan unfold? And so this has been instrumental in helping me understand that. I will go ahead and ask directors and student representatives if they have any questions for any of the presenters.
Just one comment, and what I want to really commend district staff on doing and at our schools is really latching on to the data that we have available to us. And I've seen it more and more in the instructional reviews where the principals are really trying to leverage that data, not just for what it's plainly telling you, but trying to get the underlying meaning of what that means. And so I just want to explicitly encourage you folks to keep doing that work, to keep using the data we have available to us to make sure that our outcomes for our students are the best they can be.
And I guess I just have a couple comments too, related to the IR. Something that Lance Balla asked us to do was specifically look for dialogue between the students and the teachers. And I saw agency on that slide, and I think that agency really is allowing students to have that dialogue. And I did see in every class, and especially when it comes to agency, a student teacher who asked a question, gave the answer, and one of the students had the confidence to say, no, that's not right. And the student teacher was so gracious in saying, oh my gosh, thank you. And the fact that I was told he learned that from his mentor teacher, that graciousness, but the student had the confidence to be able to challenge the teacher's answer, which I think was outstanding. And then I was in conference this weekend talking about equity in healthcare, but it had an image of equity that I'd never seen before. If you have 4 different people, a child, a regular sized woman, a very tall man, and a person in a wheelchair, and you all give them a standard bicycle, it doesn't work for all of them. But if you give the child a smaller bicycle, the woman fits in the standard bicycle, you give the man a tall bicycle, the person in the wheelchair gets a hand pedaled bicycle. That's what equity, it's getting them all that they need, what they each need. And the person in the wheelchair is not getting anything better or more than the child who's getting the small. The child needs a small bicycle and the person with a wheelchair needs a hand pedaled bicycle. So it's about equity. It's not about somebody getting more or less. It's about the people getting exactly what they need. And so I appreciate that message that was said tonight too. So thank you. And if somebody wants to pull that message, because it's just like, it was added to the one about the boxes, and the bicycle image I thought was just outstanding. So
We've
thank
actually
you.
seen that from Bill De La Cruz as recently as, I think.
Oh, did he show that too?
A month or 2 ago. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So thank you. So obviously it's an important message out there.
Yep.
I'd like to reiterate what Director Mitchell said about the assessments. And it's just been very interesting in my time on the board, because when I started, it was very much focused on the state assessment, because that's kind of, a district-wide measure. And as a director, that's an important thing to understand and to see and how it moves. And then you can break it down by school, but it's always just one point in time. And to see now with, and the devices have made a huge difference. And then the programs that we now have that disaggregate this data, to see it move to the classroom level in such a powerful way, where teachers are really understanding where every student is in their classroom, is just so cool. It's those formative check-in assessments that are allowing students to grow and understand, not the statewide point in time exams that I feel like we have relied on for so long. And then the other thing that I've seen over time that is just so different in such a great way is the assessments on social and emotional well-being of our students. It's not just the academic support solely, and to see that blended in the classroom is just really cool too. So anyhow, I guess that's a comment, not really a question. But real quick, is the Springboard that we're doing, is that coincidence that it's also this name of our middle school curriculum? And then I was just curious what a family workshop looks like.
So it is a coincidence. It's not Springboard, which is through College Board, that we have for our secondary curriculum. So Springboard Collaborative, it includes family workshops, at least 5 of them as part of each program. And what they look like is it's another instructional component. So the parent or the adult in the child's life and the child are actually with the teacher, and they go through practices in reading that they can do at home. So rather than the student just learning them on their own, the parent is there to learn about them so that they can practice them outside of the school day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just had, I guess, a couple questions. Well, one, thank you for the presentation, because I think the one thing that stood out to me is how embedded everything is. And so the social emotional pieces, the learning pieces, everything's embedded. It doesn't feel like we're working in silos in terms of our kids, and that really kind of made me happy. The other thing about, I guess, Springboard kind of takes me to my other question, which is about tutoring, right? So that Springboard is just for those, K-3, for those specific schools. I know we're having challenges with assessments for our older kids and maybe even family engagement. So do we have tutoring set up at all of our high schools or in middle schools? And do we have any type of family engagement like Springboard set up for those schools?
We don't have Springboard Collaborative because it's particularly focused. Okay. It's developmentally appropriate for our youngest learners. Mm-hmm. we have been working on identifying tutoring that would be appropriate for our secondary students, that would match the content areas that we have and give students that extra support. So we are working on that, and we're going to be collaborating with our schools, and we can share that information as we move forward with the board in a later report. So we're a work in progress on that.
Okay, so we don't have tutoring clubs or anything set up. I think they mentioned it at Jackson that they were looking at it.
Each school has their own programs based on their own staff where they support our students. That has been long-standing, and they definitely have been using those programs moving forward. Usually it's using their own staff to support our students.
Okay, yeah, and it would be great to know, because I know as we talk about gaps in learning and different scores that are looking a little lower than past years, it'd be great to know what we're doing as those wraparound supports for K-12. And then also the other piece of it is bringing in the family. I feel like the Springboard, like that's what I envision when you describe it. It's like that's what we should have. And I know it's not possible necessarily for every grade, but I know we've brought parents into basically brought the classroom into the home for the last 18 months. And so if there's a way where we can ask a parent, hey, collaborate with us, your kiddo's a little behind in math or reading, how, and giving them the tools to do that would be amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Student representatives, any comments, questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate the information, really great presentation. We'll go ahead at this time and move on to our unfinished business, and we have tonight 2 items of unfinished business. Our first item is 13.01, and this is approval of Resolution 1267, replacement of expiring educational programs and operations levy. And I believe we had a fairly detailed overview and discussion last meeting, and Mr. Moore is going to walk us through a brief overview, and then we'll have an opportunity to discuss further if we'd like to, and then we will move toward approving the resolution.
Very much appreciate that long introduction so that we can get this up and running.
Or I should say, I was going to say consideration of the resolution.
That's right. Okay, first of all tonight, thank you, President Mason, Board of Directors, Dr. Salzman. As you mentioned, this is the second reading of a resolution pertaining to our 4-year educational programs and operations levy. I'd also like to welcome on Zoom our bond counsel, Mr. Roy Cogan from Kutak Rock. He's the person who follows the stringent requirements for the structure of the resolution. So in the event you have a question, he's available to us. So thank you, Mr. Cogan, for participating. I will just go forward quickly by saying that tonight we are looking at 2 of the 3 components that our citizens support us, our educational programs and operations levy. And Mr. Gunn will be talking to you in a few minutes about our building and technology capital levy and the resolution numbers therein. Just for the record, our current resources end December 31st, 2020. And that's the basis of our term replacement levy, because upon your approval tonight and voter approval in February, beginning the next day, January 1st in 2023, is when our new levies will be enacted. I also want to again thank our Fiscal Advisory Council. Just for the benefit of the audience, it is a group of 8 community members, students who did not participate in our last meeting. We have not had new students for this year, and staff, and we review a number of fiscal issues throughout the year. They met in June to talk about our ESER plan, and certainly they reviewed this proposal on October 11th. Their consensus was that they recommended that we continue to not only lobby the state for additional fundings, but prepare locally for creating enough levy capacity to continue the programs that we have, and that is strong fiscal stewardship. These are the rates that we looked at last week that are held within the resolution contents. You will see that compared to earlier rates in the 2015, certainly we are at a lower rate today. Also know that we are anticipating in these rates some legislative action that can occur to create access to resources to support those programs. And finally, this is a diagram that we have in both presentations that really describes the composition of our local support, and greatly appreciated over the years. And the composition also shows that in 2021 and 22, as a result of a capital levy that nearly passed but did not, our rates did fall significantly. So the proposed rates combined of all three of those elements I showed you in the second slide totals $4.08 per 1,000 AV, lower than historical rates and above the current rate we're experiencing now. So with that, we'll see this slide in both of our presentations. The only difference is upon approval of resolution 1267, we will submit the one-page OSPI pre-ballot authorization form. It is said to take less than a week for it to be returned to us, and we'll be prepared to file our resolutions with the county. So with that, we are requesting your approval of resolution 1267, replacement of expiring educational programs and operations levy.
Thank you. Directors, are there questions? Director Nichols.
So just to refresh my memory, because I know we covered this the last one, that level of levy collection that was in the chart at 408, that is the most, that's the cap, provided that the state raise our cap, that's correct?
That is correct. Ultimately, if the state does not increase our levy authority, it will be lower than that.
So what would it be today? If we were doing that today, do you know what the rate would be, how that differs per thousand?
It's about 22 cents less per 1,000.
Okay, so, okay, got it.
22 to 24, yeah.
Thank you.
And my question's around the same thing. So I guess what I'm wondering is it just the EP&O levy that, let's say it didn't get increased, would it just be the EP&O levy affected, or would it also be the capital levy? Are both of them hinged on?
No, it's just the EP&O.
It's just the EP&O levy. Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay, at this time, I would like to ask for a motion to approve Resolution 1267, replacement of expiring educational programs and operations levy.
So moved.
Second?
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will move to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? And any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you. Resolution 1267 is approved. Which takes us to Resolution 1268. And this is our replacement of expiring capital levy for safety, building, and instructional technology improvements. And again, we had an opportunity to get a fairly lengthy and detailed overview at our last meeting and have some discussion. And this conversation actually began at our summer board workshop around capital improvements after a failed bond in August of 2020. So Mr. Gunn is going to briefly take us through some of the highlights and details, and then we will again consider the resolution.
All right, thank you very much. So with that excellent introduction, I'll go ahead and proceed with the presentation. The 2020 Capital Bond Planning Committee was originally charged with developing a recommendation for a capital bond in 2020. And that bond ultimately was not successful, but we asked them to come back and develop a recommendation for a capital levy in February 2022. And that is the recommendation that we're presenting to you tonight, along with the resolution that encompasses that recommendation. The Capital Bond Planning Committee was provided the same information that we provided to the board over numerous occasions, and then also some additional information about updated enrollment projections and updated property tax rate projections that would be generated from different options. So the recommendation that the bond committee made and that we're proposing in resolution 1268 tonight is for a total of $325.5 million for a capital levy. I'll briefly go through the projects. To replace aging elementary schools in lieu of modernizing them for Jackson Elementary and Madison Elementary, modernize and upgrade high school buildings, replace Cascade High School Science Building, upgrade 2 science classrooms at Jackson High School, modernize classrooms and the cafeteria at the Everett High School Civic Auditorium Building, and then also to upgrade the cafeteria and kitchen at Cascade High School. The typical HVAC roofing and flooring systems projects are in there. I could go through the list, but there are HVAC controls at 4 sites, roofing at 6 schools, flooring replacement at Emerson and Silver Firs, safety and security upgrades throughout the district, specifically including fencing at Everett High and Cascade High, security systems at 11 sites, access control systems at Everett and Cascade High Schools, replacing lock sets and keying systems district-wide, fire alarm systems at Mill Creek Elementary, Silver Firs Elementary, and Everett High School Science Building. And then also to some upgrades of school sites, replace aging playground equipment at 8 elementary schools, new electronic reader boards at 19 schools, replace freezers and coolers at Jackson and Cascade High, replacing the bleachers at Jackson and Cascade High. And then also 2 very large projects, actually collections of projects. One is the Clean Buildings Act upgrades district-wide, and these are buildings 50,000 square feet or more have to be upgraded as per legislation by the state in 2019. Then also technology projects, and the best way to describe this is this $96 million collection of projects is the 6-year funding of technology for the entire district. All of our student devices, one computer to one student device ratios, all the support for all the systems, the infrastructure, the hotspots, everything that we have become accustomed to a need for technology over the next 6 years will basically come out of this. So projects that were not included, this is from the list of the original 2020 bond proposal projects. We did not include in the recommendation 36 new elementary school classrooms, replacement of Lowell Elementary, modernization of Everett High School Volk Building, the interior and exterior finishes at Everett High School Science Building, expansion of parking lots at Jefferson and Elementary and Emerson Elementary Schools, and then the renovation of the Cascade High School softball fields and dugouts. These projects are definitely necessary projects, but at this point, the committee, for various reasons, decided to pull each one of these off. They are still projects that we will be attempting to do over time. So this is the very similar slide to what Mr. Moore had just shown you, with the addition of 2 years, 2027 and 2028. And since the EP&O levy only goes 4 years, the capital levy goes 6 years, we've made projections that the rate established in the EP&O levy would continue for those final 2 years, 2 years beyond the 4-year term of the EP&O levy. So all that's to say that the rate of $4.08, the combined total tax rate projection would be for the EP&O levy and the capital levy as proposed. And this chart shows the estimated tax rates of $4.08 combined for the EP&O and the capital levy over time. I will point out real quickly, though, that $4.08, while it is an increase over the 2021 and 2022 rates, if you look beyond back in time before then, the $4.08 per thousand is actually a decrease from all of the rates prior to 2020. And that's pretty important, because the reason that they've dropped over the last 2 years is because the 2 reasons. The bond the impact of bonds on the tax rates have been decreasing because we've been paying off the bonds. Then also the assessed valuations have gone up significantly. Okay, so this is the upcoming events, next steps. Assuming that the board approves this resolution along with the approval of the prior resolution, we would advertise and select pro and con committee members over the next 9 days or so, beginning tomorrow, and then bring the list of pro and con committee members back to you for approval on November 30th, and then collect a lot of documents related to the resolutions and the ballot propositions back to the county by December 10th. And then, as you have heard before, the ballots will mail out on January 20th for Election Day on February 8th. And with that, I will now ask you to consider approval of this resolution 1268.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to, I guess, point out again to our community the technology funding and how critical that has been the last 2 years. And I recall when we were asking for that that money in 2016 to implement a one-to-one, how many people saw it as sort of a luxury. A lot of kids already had access to computers at home. Why would we need to hand out devices? And to me, you know, living through these last 20 months or so and experiencing the equity it has brought to our families and our students is just so critical. And I don't think anyone sort of sees this as a nice to have anymore after this past year. So I'm thankful that that's in there and that we're going to hopefully be able to continue that program. And then I also want to just another huge thank you. I know April Berg had mentioned it at our last meeting, but the work on behalf of the Bond Planning Committee, they thought they were done. They did an amazing job on the bond, and then we asked them to come back and do more work. And they were so well suited already to help analyze those projects. And I really liked that they didn't come back and they just did the same analysis. They came back and they looked at sort of where the world is today after a pandemic, and narrowed that list down to really the most critical building needs that we have. And they had to let go of a few that are important, but really focused on the most critical. And then also the safety, that has become such an important thing. I mean, it always has been in our district, but certainly highlighted from the pandemic. And then the final component of that I think I appreciate the most is, there are taxes associated with these measures, and we want to be able to balance what our students and our district needs with the people who pay those taxes. And I think that the Bond Planning Committee did a really excellent job of balancing all of those needs. So with that, I'm going to turn it over if any other directors have comments or questions of Mr. Gunn. Director Lassane?
Well, I'm looking at the total, and I would like to ditto everything that President Mason just said. When you start looking at 96 million in 2016, that was what we requested from our community. $96 million for a technology levy that provided computers to our students. It was kind of thinking forward. We did not expect this pandemic. We did not expect that there would be a need, but there was a need. And we were ahead of the game when you started looking at other districts in providing technology to our students so they can continue remote learning. So when you take that out of the equation of 325, it brings it down to 229. Then you look at the Clean Building Act that the state has required that we implement. That's roughly $30 million. So when you take that out of the 229, we're down less than $200 million. Then when you start looking at, well, why do we need that much money? And you look at the aging infrastructure that we have with 2 older schools, very essential. We have need elsewhere, but when the committee actually looked at the need and said, these are the two schools that truly need to be replaced, they came back with those two schools, Madison and Jackson. And then when we started thinking about career and technology for our high school students and how are we preparing them, we've seen a need to modernize and upgrade our high schools. And we put that in the need category. And this pandemic has shown that we have to ensure that our kids are prepared for going forward. And so that was there. And everybody knows I've had to replace the roof on my home, and I've had to upgrade my furnace at my home. So those particular needs have to continue. We also looked at safety and security. We did this well before a lot of other school districts did in changing the vestibules at schools so that there was only one way in which people can get into our schools so that we can ensure our kids are safe. But we didn't complete it all. And so with the group, the fiscal advisory or the advisory group coming back and saying, we looked at the most important needs and we actually put those in. I think they did an awesome job. I truly do. I would not go to the public and say we have fluff in there. We have definite needs. And we've tried to be very strategic in ensuring that your taxes were well spent on your students. I think we did an excellent job, and I thank you very much for that. So thank you.
Just briefly for the general public, the way we fund education, I've said this many times, in this country and in the state is insane. The tax structures that we put in place it doesn't make any sense. It's inequitable in a lot of cases. And the long-term solution to that is all of us coming together and demanding that our state legislature and federal legislature fully fund basic education and all the things that go along with it. In the short term, though, this is the way we have to do it. And I'm not a fan of these yo-yoing tax rates, and it gets really annoying when you're trying to figure out your budget every year. But our children are worth it. I'm really bummed that we weren't able to add the 36 new elementary school classrooms to this, but I understand the committee's hard work, and I'm glad that they were there to help us make this decision. And thank you for the presentation.
I'm just going to say ditto to all three of them. But one thing, though, when I'm coming back to this IR because I was so excited about it. At the time we did do this too, because my daughter had a computer, I saw her using both computers, so it was a luxury. But I was in the modified English classroom, which I believe are students with special needs, and they were doing job research. So they all sat there. Most of them had their computers out and could do that research on their own computer, save it, work on their resumes, work on what they needed to do. That's not a luxury, that is a need. And even though we aren't virtual, those computers are in the classroom. Those one-to-one computers are in the classroom. And I know that is not a part of the bond, but I was so pleased to see on slide 4, as much as we hate portables, if that is one of our portables and not a stock photo, that teacher made that portable so welcoming looking with signs and flowers, and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. So I just want to recognize whatever teacher that is for really making a portable his or her own. So off subject, but we hate them, but that was beautiful.
I just want to say really good work. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve Resolution 1268, replacement of expiring capital levy for safety, building, and instructional technology improvements.
So moved.
Second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? The resolution is approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Gunn.
Thank you, and I would like to, on behalf of the Capital Bond Planning Committee and all of the staff that has worked on this, thank you for your complimentary comments. Thank you.
Okay, we are a bit ahead of schedule, so I think we'll just keep rolling on, given that we just have one item of business left, if everyone's okay with that. We have one item of new business, and that is item 14.0. That is the adoption of the middle school science and chemistry in the Earth System Instructional Materials first reading.
It's a mouthful.
Yes. It was an eyeful to us, so trying to straighten out all those words.
Well, President Mason, directors, and Dr. Salzman, I am very excited this evening to return to the podium and introduce Science and Engineering Director Andrea Cartwright, who will be sharing with you our recommendations for adoptions for middle school science and grade 11 chemistry in the Earth systems. Andrea, along with two representatives from her adoption committee, North Middle School teacher Becky Dote and Everett High teacher Addie Smith, will share their team's amazing work with you and their recommendation to the board this evening.
Thank you. Oops. Wrong button. There we go. Okay. Good evening. Tonight, I will share the Middle School Science and Chemistry in the Earth System Adoption Committee's instructional materials recommendations. Due to the pandemic, committees met in combination of in-person and Zoom sessions from May of 2021 until this October to engage in the rigorous and comprehensive adoption process as outlined by Policy 2311. The adoption processes are grounded in the district's strategic priorities. At the heart of our work is increasing equitable access to resources to support student learning. Our work directly aligns with student priority outcome, increased science achievement. We also believe that this work supports reducing achievement gaps and ensures students are prepared to succeed in college and/or career of their choice. The processes were launched by needs assessments. The state's adoption of the Next Generation Science Standards, the NGSS, created the need for new courses and therefore new instructional materials. A K-12 NGSS design team developed course maps to meet the state science standards. Middle school maps call for the more deliberate integration of physical, life, earth and space sciences, and engineering standards. The high school course map is comprised of 3 new courses that meet the state requirements for the NGSS and graduation. These courses integrate earth and space science and engineering standards with biology, physics, and chemistry. Instructional materials were last adopted for middle school science in 2004 and for high school chemistry in 2006. Committees comprised of teachers and district facilitators, as well as representatives from special services, multilingual learner, and our technology departments, evaluated and recommended the selection of instructional resources, as well as developed implementation plans. To prepare for this work, members were steeped in learning experiences to build and calibrate understanding of how standards and courses support equity and access for each student, how research best practices highlight student-centered and student-empowered learning experiences, how intentional instructional moves support sense-making in collaborative, discourse-rich classroom environments, and how high-quality instruction can prepare our students for college, career, and life readiness. After reviewing instructional resources based on policy and procedure, finalists were identified by the committees. Committee members field tested finalists in their classrooms between September 15th and October 15th. After implementation of each product, both teachers and students reflected on the learning experiences and completed feedback forms. A virtual open house provided an opportunity for our community, staff, and regional partners to include their voice in this process. A district webpage was created with online resources and feedback forms for each product. The opportunity was communicated via the district homepage, Facebook, Twitter, and emails. The final step in the adoption process was to comprehensively review all of the data collected. The instructional resources that were selected for recommendation will be identified by grade level and course over the next several slides. I will first present the middle school science recommendation, and then the chemistry and the earth system recommendation. I'm pleased to share that the Middle School Science Adoption Committee recommends Open SciEd. This open educational resource, developed by a consortium of experts in the fields of science education, curriculum design, professional learning, and data analysis, have created a complete set of robust research-based instructional materials comprised of phenomena-based three-dimensional units that prioritize equitable science sense-making. Throughout the units, students develop the ability to solve problems, ask and answer questions, and argue from evidence. These materials support a full coherent sequence that builds across units and across years. Print and digital partnerships exist with Kendall Hunt Publishing and Activate Learning. Open SciEd was recommended because it is designed for students to achieve the next generation science standards. It's designed so that students are figuring out, not just learning about science. It achieves student-centered learning experiences. Students are positioned as scientists and engineers, consistently engaging in collaborative experiences. It provides multiple layers of support for special populations during learning. This includes specified instructional and language development strategies with differentiated options. It provides robust support for teachers with all of the tools and resources needed to plan and implement student-centered learning that each student can access. And lastly, it includes blended learning experiences with just-in-time use of technology to solve problems about the natural and designed worlds. This slide highlights several of the students' comments submitted during field testing and reflection. These quotes were taken directly, as written, from the student feedback forms. As you can see, students appreciate the hands-on collaborative experiences. They enjoyed being challenged to figure this out. I'd like to draw special attention to a few comments. I like how we were able to draw to engage in the lesson. This student is referencing how the initial task is to draw what you think is happening. Draw your initial model. Many students commented that they liked being able to use art to make their thinking visible, not just writing. The last comment states, I connected with the breakfast article because I'm from Brazil. This student is referencing an article that contained short passages written from different country perspectives about eating. This student loved seeing herself in the instructional resources. These are just a few of the many examples of how this resource supports inclusion and accessibility. I'd like to now invite Becky Dote, Adoption Process Committee member and 7th and 8th grade North Middle School science teacher, to the podium. Becky will share a few statements about why the committee recommends this resource from the teacher perspective.
Hi, thanks for having me here tonight. After participating in this curriculum adoption process, I'm really enthusiastic and really excited about teaching again. I love this Open SciEd curriculum. One of the reasons that I and other teachers love it is because it provides really complex, relevant phenomena for students to investigate. My students have been working on the same unit for over a month, and I have never once been asked why we need to learn this. For a month. It teaches science as a process. And for someone with a background in science, this really excites me because students really get to approach science as a problem-solving process as opposed to repeating experiments that have already been done, and learning about science is something that's already happened. They get to discover it for themselves. It's very inquiry based, and even though the kids feel like they're totally in charge of what we're learning, it's very easy to direct them in the direction we want them to go, but they really feel like they're in charge. Students have to develop their skills in collaboration and communication. And as educators, I know right now we're very concerned about 21st century skills. This curriculum will produce students with strong 21st century skills. And it also really closely mirrors professional science because of the significant communication and analysis they have to complete with each other. It's accessible for all students in ways that don't make them feel othered. I don't need to provide a separate document for a student that's part of my ML cohort or in the SPED curriculum. It's inclusive and accessible for everyone. And it's really good at providing multiple modalities so that all learning styles are represented. And there are really dependable routines for teaching the science and engineering practices that are part of NGSS, so students get a lot of practice and they know what to expect, which makes them feel safe, and they were able to see their growth. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Becky. The Open SciEd instructional model uses a storyline approach, a logical sequence of lessons that are motivated by students' questions, as Becky referenced. To help advance the unit, the instructional model takes advantage of 5 routines, activities that play specific roles in advancing the storyline, with structures to help students achieve the objectives of the activities. The anchoring phenomenon routine kicks off the unit of study and serves to ground students' learning in a common experience. It pushes students to represent their thinking as initial models, a critical pre-assessment opportunity. Individual models are shared to help create an initial class consensus model. Students are also asked at this moment to share where in their lives have they experienced something similar to this before. This creates a space to not only access prior knowledge, but surface cultural experiences as funds of knowledge to be shared in the problem-solving experience. A driving question board is created to capture student wanderings about phenomena. Students generate, keep track of, and revisit questions on the driving question board to drive investigation. It serves as a visual representation of the class's shared mission of learning in the unit. The navigation routine determines the next step in investigating the phenomena. Students take stock of, how did we get here? Where are we now? And where are we going? To link learning across lessons and activities. This determines the next investigation. During the investigation routine, students engage in science practices to make sense of the phenomena. The putting the pieces together routine serves to help students take stock of their new learning from their investigations and revisit that class consensus representation. This routine is conducted when students have evidence from a range of situations to construct and enhance components of their explanatory model. After enhancing the class consensus model, students revisit the driving question board to determine what needs to be investigated next. This problematizing routine helps to reveal potential problems with the current model in order to motivate students to extend or revise their thinking. This routine helps students recognize that there's more to figure out. Open SciEd units support equity through specific strategies. Universal design for learning principles are called out during the unit to reduce potential barriers and provide more accessible ways for students to engage. Specific strategies to support emerging multilingual students in science classrooms are embedded in the lessons. The central role of collaborative sense-making or figuring out in the units supports equity. It provides opportunities for students with diverse assets and perspectives to contribute meaningfully to the intellectual work of the classroom. Units develop and support classroom norms to provide safe learning cultures, which supports classroom discussion. These units value, make visible, and build on all student ideas. Open SciEd materials are produced in both English and Spanish. All student-facing resources are also available as Google Documents, which can be translated into numerous languages as needed. Now I'll transition to high school. I'm pleased to share that the Chemistry in the Earth System Adoption Committee recommends Experience Chemistry in the Earth System by Savvis Learning Company. This instructional resource was built to support blended learning. There are numerous print and digital resources that are designed to support sense-making and engage students in the 3 dimensions of the NGSS. Experience Chemistry in the Earth System is comprised of instructional segments with investigations that integrate physical science, earth and space science, and engineering standards, and explore issues such as wildfires, climate, and ocean acidification. Experience Chemistry in the Earth System was recommended because students use the science and engineering practices and cross-cutting concepts of the NGSS to solve problems. Students do science and engineering to figure out the natural and designed world. In partnership with Flynn Scientific, 4 versions of every lab are available so students can engage in open-ended, guided, shortened, and advanced investigations as needed. It's built to produce scientifically literate citizens. The curriculum challenges students to think critically about world situations. The print and digital resources help teachers in differentiation and students in their ability to access content in numerous ways. It supports equity and accessibility. This product leverages phenomenon-driven learning experiences. Students connect with everyday experiences to support deeper understanding of chemistry and earth and space science concepts. The learning progressions are designed to support diverse learners with scaffolded instruction and strategies embedded. And finally, the materials include robust support for teachers, including lab preparation videos, debrief summaries, discussion prompts, and remediation suggestions based on student assessment data. This slide highlights several of the students' comments submitted during field testing and reflection. These quotes were taken directly as written from the student feedback forms. As you can see, students appreciate the hands-on, collaborative learning. Students appreciated the intentionality of the learning resources. They noted that studying everyday phenomena helped them make sense of the detailed chemistry. They also highlighted the reading passages, commenting that they were digestible, just enough information at the right time to solidify their sense-making. I'd like to now invite Addie Smith, Adoption Committee Process Member and Chemistry in the Earth System Science Teacher from Everett High School, to the podium. Addie will share a few statements about why this product is recommended from a teacher perspective.
Thank you, Andrea. So I've been a teacher of chemistry in Everett Public Schools for a very long time. I've sat on adoption committees for chemistry curriculum. Now this is my 3rd, if you count AP chemistry. And all the time, I have never found a curriculum that has provided such rich and deep learning experiences as Experience Chemistry. It provides a variety of activities that a teacher can choose from to differentiate and better help her students make relevant connections to complex topics. It has frequent formative embedded assessments that allow both teacher and student to evaluate how well they're meeting the learning targets. It's NGSS aligned, which means that we're not only teaching to standards, but that our classroom learning is part of a vertically aligned course map that prepares our students to be scientifically competent members of our community and will make informed decisions as a result. Lastly, it's fun. It's engaging, it's embedded in their everyday lives. And when you teach a subject like chemistry, to have a deep connection with the kids on the content and have them be able to see it in their everyday lives is so important. When they see how this science connects them to the phenomena in the world around them, they become invested in their learning and their sense making. I support this curriculum immensely, so thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you, Addie. Experience Chemistry in the Earth System uses phenomena to engage students in evidence-based practices and ideas. The program organization supports the implementation of NGSS using anchoring, investigative, and everyday phenomena. The various types of phenomena support sustained engagement and increase accessibility. Students see and figure out chemistry in the context of all that is around them. Grounded in sound educational theory, this product uses the 5E instructional model to place students center stage as they question and investigate. The 5 phases of the model are designed to facilitate the process of conceptual change, supporting high-quality Tier 1 instruction. Included are multiple opportunities to engage in each of the 5 E's, increasing a teacher's ability to differentiate instruction. This slide highlights activities to engage students in the use of science and engineering practices to build meaning, followed by just-in-time reading to solidify their sense-making. Students analyzed data, they used and developed models to then make sense of isotopes. Notice the reading passage on the right compares isotopes to dogs. This illustrates how the curriculum uses everyday experiences and objects to support understanding chemistry and earth science, which the students positively reflected on during field testing. This instructional resource includes numerous digital tools to support learning. Virtual labs and virtual reality simulations bring chemistry to life. Short lab videos allow students to visualize difficult concepts and processes. Students can revisit the phenomena videos as they progress through their learning. And the product partners with PhET interactive simulations to provide explorations in intuitive game-like environments. And lastly, virtual nerd tutorials offer approachable mathematics explanations delivered by on-screen instructors. To support implementation of these new instructional resources, teachers will participate in just-in-time blended learning experiences. Both Zoom and in-person trainings will be led by publishers and the central office science team to build understanding of pedagogy and resource organization, understanding how to use the digital tools, readiness to implement units, and readiness to employ the high-leverage instructional strategies and routines to support discourse and sense-making. Tonight, in this first reading, I've explained the characteristics of the recommended instructional materials for middle school science and the grade 11 high school course chemistry in the Earth system. Based on the extensive review process, the committees believe these recommendations can support increasing science achievement, reduce achievement gaps, and ensure college and career readiness. And in doing so, request the adoption of these resources after a second reading. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to the teachers, Rebecca and Addie, who joined us tonight. It's so nice to hear your personal perspective on these materials. It's extremely helpful to the board. So thank you for giving up your evening and being here. We appreciate it. That was a lot of information, actually.
That was a lot of information.
I'm thinking, what?
You always hang with me, so thank you.
Directors, do you have any additional questions? Or yes, Director Mitchell.
Yeah, I just want to say I don't even remember my junior high science, and I just really appreciate Becky getting me so excited to maybe go to middle school again. And then I liked the student comment that using the stadium and people as electrons,
Yes.
and then those dogs, because my chemistry teacher in high school actually had a stuffed animal of a mole as a representation of moles. And I never understood it because you have to have those things in context.
Right.
And it sounds like this lesson puts it in context versus his stuffed animal mole trying to explain moles, which I have no idea how I became a pharmacist coming out of that class in high school. Much better chemistry teachers later. But anyway, just so excited. And thank you for the hard work of everyone. And just the teacher's voice, the student voice is so, so important to us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Few quick things. First, I wanted to recognize the parents that were on the committee and thank them for their service. Looks like here we had 2 parents, so that's huge. I'm glad to see parent involvement. The second thing is with the Open Sci-Ed, you know, it's I get excited when I think back to my childhood and learning things, and it was just kind of like rote memorization, and now it's basic concepts that make sense, like taking the concept of a hypothesis and calling it a driving question. Like that makes way more sense. It's way easier to internalize than, okay, the scientific method is the circle and I start with the hypothesis and I come back around and then I have to rehypothesize. No, it's what do I still don't know? What am I still curious about? I think that's phenomenal. So thank you very much. Thank you for all your hard work.
I'd like to also thank you so much for your work, and I'm glad you brought the teachers in, because it's very important that we listen to what they have to say. Because I do recall a time in which we looked at different instructional models as it went from middle school to high school. And we found that there was a gap there where it doesn't link up. You've taught me one thing here at middle school, and now you're teaching me something different. How do I equate this? How do I, put them all together? My question to you is there a definite link between the Open SciEd instructional models to those that would be in the experience chemistry in high school? Are the instructional models the same? You said the 5 E's. When we start teaching kids the CER in middle school and then went to high school, sometimes there was a different matchup. And so sometimes we lost some kids.
Yeah.
When you start looking at how it equates in middle school to high school, and especially in the other science classes, the AP classes, is there a definite link? So kids are saying, hey, I've already learned this model, or finding the results that you're seeking in this particular model.
So the 5E instructional model it's been around since the 70s, and it's the model that's used to develop all science curriculum. Whether a publishing company explicitly calls out the 5Es in their instructional resources, or they in turn reference routines embedded within the 5Es to elicit student understanding and curiosity. All of the products that are on the market today are written in alignment with the 5E instructional model in science.
Okay.
So that explore, engage, explore, explain are all embedded in the routines of Open SciEd, as well as the construction of all of our high school curricula. So there's that. You also referenced claim evidence reasoning. So that is a framework that's leveraged when we're constructing explanations, one of the very important science and engineering practices. And so claim evidence reasoning is a framework that we actually use K-12 and provide professional learning on for our teachers throughout the K-12 experience. It surfaces in the way that teachers are prompting students to make their thinking visible. What's your claim? What's your evidence? And the more that we get revised and enhanced in new instructional materials in the hands of our teachers and students, the more common you'll see that framework being used. But we currently offer professional learning for CER throughout the system.
Okay. So these two different types of curriculums that you're bringing forward today will link to and align with all of our science courses in high school, when I look at the middle school to high school.
Yes, because what the Open SciEd curricula is written in alignment to are the next generation science standards for grades 6 through 8, so the middle school science standards. Those are a piece of the pipeline of the whole entire next generation science experience. The next generation science standards are K-12 standards, and they're written on a continuum of skill development in terms of the science and engineering practices, and the analysis tools, the cross-cutting concepts, as well as linking those core ideas in increasing complexity as we move from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Good.
So while the instructional resource developers may not be the same, the standards are, and therefore the students will be prepared.
Thank you. And it's fun.
And it's fun. As a former chemistry teacher, I am looking forward to supporting my chemistry and earth system teachers in their classrooms. And I'm also very excited to become a middle school science teacher as I help the teachers.
I'll be your student.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you. This was really informative. And I learned the word problematizing. So thank you for that. Because I'm going to be using it in completely inappropriate ways. But that said, I wanted to highlight something that Director Nichols said was just the parent voice. And so thank you for bringing in that parent voice. And it occurred to me that each of our presentations tonight had a parent voice element to it. And so just for the public at home, everything from listening to how our schools are doing right now and then Let's Connect, that's a parent voice informing those decisions, listening to even our bond and levy planning, we had parent voice. And now, even as we get into the weeds of the real good work that's being done in schools, you've brought in again that parent voice. So thank you for kind of summing it up tonight. It's been a great night, but this really sums up why we do what we do. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say I never got the opportunity to take either any of the new courses that we're incorporating, the biology and the environment, physics and the universe, and chemistry and the earth system. And just from like the course titles themselves, I've always been like, oh man, I'm kind of missing out. I just ended up on a different track with the AP courses and stuff. But I just think it's really exciting that we're incorporating science standards into the real world in so many different ways. And I think that the curriculum and your description of the curriculum really highlights that. And I guess I'm just excited for the future of what the biology and the environment and the physics and the universe curriculums, how those are going to follow this sort of standard that we're setting with this curriculum. It's really exciting to see.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I would say that you did your job well tonight, because you have a couple directors who want to go back to middle school science class and a student representative who's feeling left out. So I want to thank you so much for the information, and we will go ahead and move this to second reading at our next meeting.
Is that fine for now?
Okay, with that, we are on to item 15.0, which is our upcoming agenda items, and I'll ask Dr. Salzman to walk us through those.
Thank you, and just a point of order, amazing job to all y'all, so thank you so much. And before I do close with this part, I just want to thank our veterans for all their work for the United States and all over the world, because Thursday's Veterans Day, so thank you all, those that have served and are veterans, thank you. At the November 16th special meeting, the Board Agenda will contain the following: the Superintendent's evaluation. Special meeting November 16th. At that November 19th special meeting, the Board will attend the Washington State School Directors Association Annual Conference. 15.03, the regular meeting on November 30th, 2021 will contain the following: Science 6 to 8, Chemistry Adoption Second Reading. Recognition, College and the High School Bill Contributor. Fourth Quarter Financial Report. CTE Program Evaluation. Legislative Priorities. August Financial Reports. Northwest SOIL Fairfax Contract and ASB Constitutions. And looking at that calendar, to the public and to everybody, I'm thankful and grateful and wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, because we all won't be here live at that time. So to our community, a blessed and happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you. And I'd also like to just reiterate that special meeting on November 19th is also on the 20th. It's a 2-day.
Sorry.
Not a correction, just that it's our opportunity to learn a whole lot from our associates across the state. And it's always, all 5 of us are attending, and it's always a great opportunity, really enriching for us to be able to grow our knowledge and skills as directors. So I think we're looking forward to that as well. Okay, with that, we move on to item 16.0, which is executive or closed session, and we do not have an executive or closed session this evening. So that takes us to item 17.0, and you all know what that means. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.